Hey everyone, Andres Gambo here, and this is another episode of the Ponytails Podcast. I am your host for Summer Bookman. If this is your first episode, welcome. We interview people who sold books with a company called Southwestern Advantage. They went door to door for 80 plus hours a week during their summer college summers, and they had a blast. All sorts of different stories that we've had on here that you wouldn't believe. Drama, excitement, comedy, and the works. But we also talked to them about what they're up to now and how that experience shaped their life into the careers that they went on to take after their internship years. So no different today is our guest, Alex Bednar. He is a lawyer in Oklahoma, and he sold for 9 summers from 1990 to 1998, went to Vanderbilt University, and then went to grad school in the University of Oklahoma and the University of Houston. Originally, his hometown, he claims, as Dallas, Texas. And he is with us today. Excited to have a chat with him. We've had some crazy conversations before even recording that I'm excited for him to share. Of course, these are the experiences of our guests, and we allow them a microphone and a platform to talk and share what's been going on in their lives since their time selling books. So in a second, we'll be back on with Alex. Ponytails Podcast. Hello, Alex. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Taking over the world. I am excited. I'm excited to chat with you. This has been you. We got on the phone, and as soon as I hung up, I was like, "Holy cow! This is going to be a crazy episode." So let's just dive right on in because I've done some reading. I've prepped for this. I want to hear your story about what's been happening. Let's just dive right into what's been going on with you in the last few years and even up to now. We'll get into some Southwestern stuff here in a little bit. But I will shut up and let you tell your story. My friend, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed getting to know you. I was amazed to hear your story and your family and the plight the things that you've had to go through and in your life. And so I'm happy to share what's happened with me. I grew up was born in the States, as I mentioned to you. I grew up speaking French, moved to France when I was little, and then came back to America when I was 8, 9 years old and started learning English and graduated from high school in Dallas, went to college in Nashville, put myself through college, met Roy Lofton, who I actually am working for now, who at the time was a director at Southwestern and sold for 9 summers, and then started law school. And so that's sort of a quick background. After law school, I went to a higher level law program called an LL.M in healthcare law, and was recruited by some of my professors from law school at University of Oklahoma to come work in their firm in the healthcare division, and ended up staying in Oklahoma, got married and divorced and have a daughter, and had a really interesting life the last 10 years of my life. So.
Yeah, I can imagine. Let's wind the clocks back there, and kind of, because I feel like that's kind of the juice, I guess, of everything that's been going on, where everything started back in 2013. Am I right? Was when everything kind of started to shift severely and kind of started this crazy journey that you've been on through your practice.
Yeah, I was doing really well. I had hit a couple of home runs practicing law, and I have an ex who's a judge in Oklahoma, and when we broke up, that was not the most friendly breakup, and she started poo-pooing my name in the courthouse and throughout the state of Oklahoma. And after some time, I ended up marrying another woman, and she accosted that woman, did a whole bunch of things that were inappropriate, and that woman is my ex-wife, my current ex-wife. And so I filed a judicial complaint against her back in late 2011. And unbeknownst to me, and the person who was in charge of that judicial complaint was the head of the Council on Judicial Complaints in Oklahoma, had been an opposing counsel in one of my cases. and he
Oh
went
boy.
and met with, yeah, yeah, I didn't know that. And it's supposed to be a confidential, complaint process. And when he received that complaint, he saw that it mentioned not just my ex, who's a judge, but also this other judge whom she had taken a trip with, and was bragging to folks that he was going to sanction me. And this is for a year, 2 years after I was before that judge. And so I filed this complaint, and the head of the Council on Judicial Complaints, who's supposed to be protecting the public in Oklahoma, met with that judge, and together they drafted a memo about me to send to other judges, which was false, 100% false, without getting my opinion or my side of it. And it alleged that I had threatened a witness in a case, which was completely not true. And so that to this day, that's published about me. And I've tried as hard as I could to have courts, to have anybody look at that and realize that's false. It was actually about one of the parties in that case who had settled and who had violated the settlement agreement, and the memo is just completely false. And so that led to the 2013 me sitting out from the practice of law based on a memo that was false.
My gosh. And that's how it started. That's the beginning of
That's
the story. This
That
is
started.
this
Yeah.
is week 1 of your summer per se, if for the
Right.
for the analogy. Whoa. Okay, so I guess
Yeah.
without getting into too many details at this point, because this is new for me because normally I don't do any pre-approach, but knowing what we know now, did you know that it was going to turn into what ended up happening over the next 9 years? Could you imagine at that point what that
No.
this was going to be where you ended up?
I would never, never in my wild, when I went to law school, I went there to make a difference, to use my mind, in a way to help people. And never in my wildest dreams would I think that the folks in the state of Oklahoma who are tasked with keeping the judicial public servants accountable, that those folks would use their positions to retaliate against me because I had exposed some judicial faux pas or judicial corruption. And that turned into a group of public servants who started manipulating things behind the scenes. And I caught them doing that and exposed more of it, from judges meeting together to sabotage my cases, to,
Yeah.
left and right. It's a John Grisham novel in real
It,
life is what happens.
it really was. I read there was an article that I read, and it was talking about, it kind of like gave a synopsis of everything that was talking about. It was the 3 judges, right? The 2 county judge, or Judge Alexander. And I got the article pulled up. I'll find it somewhere. But there were some judges that they were talking about how they were talking in closed doors. Is this further down the story that they were like behind doors talking
Um,
about you?
well, there's yes, I've caught a lot of judges meeting privately, talking about me, and I've recorded them. A lot of these folks were friends socially back when I was together with this ex who's a judge. So until they realized I was tape recording them, I was able to get a lot of information from them. And so,
That's
um,
wild.
yeah. So I've met with the Attorney General for the state of Oklahoma, who, unbeknownst to me, was friends with the chief judge of the Oklahoma County Courthouse, and who didn't do anything to help me. And now the chief judge of the Oklahoma County Courthouse was removed and was under criminal indictment for abusing his office. And the Attorney General, who didn't do anything to help
My
me,
gosh.
had to resign because of impending public humiliation that was coming out that involved this county judge who really had it in for me. So yeah,
My gosh.
it's an Orwellian, like I said,
Yeah.
Grisham situation. And what's cool, I guess, if someone were to just read without actually doing any research, and without digging into facts. If someone just read what the state of Oklahoma's Supreme Court has written about me,
Yeah.
you would think that I had done everything evil in the world. The only thing that I tell people that they haven't included is something like, you know, genocide in Somalia that somehow I was involved in.
Yeah.
And if they could have just had that idea, they would have probably included that. I'm accused of everything under the sun, and it's all, what's crazy is it's all false. So there's about a 30-page Supreme Court ruling taking away my bar license, and it accuses me of being fraudulent,
Yeah.
filing fraudulent things.
Yeah.
There's
I
not
read
one.
all that.
There's
It's
not one.
crazy.
There's not one fraud case. Which, show me one. Like, just ask someone. Okay, well, where has he been accused of fraud? Where has he lost a fraud case? Not one. I'm accused of having forged a notary stamp, right?
Yeah.
Which is a pro bono grandma was helping to get a grandchild out of DHS custody. I have the text messages from her where she brought all the documents notarized. They had her lie on the stand. I've met with the FBI in Oklahoma. I've turned over some of that proof. We've opened up a Department of Justice investigation, and I've sent to General Merrick Garland a memo, including proof, like concrete proof, that the bar prosecutor in Oklahoma, in taking away my bar license, suborned perjury, hid evidence, did all the kinds of things because she was retaliating against me. I had exposed things that she did in protecting judges. And so, anytime you have a whistleblower who really pretty much indicates that what you have done as a public servant violates the law, they will continue to violate the law to retaliate against you. That's what the state of Oklahoma has demonstrated to me. And it has a long history of corruption going back to the beginning of statehood. There have been multiple governors impeached. In the 1960s, there were 2 Supreme Court justices in Oklahoma who were criminally indicted for accepting bribes. In the 1980s and 90s, the district attorney of Oklahoma County was a guy named Bob Macy. And if you just Google Bob Macy, you'll find out that he has the worst record in the United States for death penalty prosecutions. Over 40%, from what I hear, 40% of his death penalty prosecutions were based on false DNA. And he had a chemist named Joyce Gilchrist who manufactured false evidence. So the group of folks, and they're friends of mine who are attorneys who are older than I, who got some of those folks off death row and who were on CNN. And every 20 years or so, there's another huge situation where there's a massive amount of corruption involving the Oklahoma County Courthouse. And so, unfortunately, I got to be part of that story.
You got to be part of this 20-year cycle.
Yeah.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this, you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business, specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. So and so money wise, and it just seemed like it was going to be the leads, which I wanted to go back to that because you mentioned this, and that's another thing that maybe Southwestern people don't understand is leads. That's kind of like you're saying, basically, imagine you show up to a town to sell books, you send a postcard out to every single family that has kids in school or young children, asking them if they struggle with any of the following subjects, yes or no. Would you be interested in hearing about a product that might help you with all those subjects, yes or no, name and address, and then you just waited at your HQ for like a couple of weeks, and then you got in the mail like 700 people returning that postcard saying, come to my house, here's where I live. Hi, are you the mom of the house? Yes, and we've heard of you. Great.
Yeah, is this your handwriting, Miss Betty? Yeah, that's my handwriting.
Yeah.
You got a few minutes? It's, again, you're not selling every single lead that you sit down with, but the leads is kind of what interested me, because that kind of anxiety feeling that I talked about at Southwestern and the anxiety I had with Family Heritage, I honestly didn't think that was going to go away, but it has. It's gone away when I sold. I still had a little bit of anxiety, but after that first knock, it goes away. But much less anxiety every week, because I know I have fresh leads coming in, and so even if this day doesn't work out, I know I got. Typically, our agents will get anywhere from 25 to 50 leads a week of people that they can go and call on.
That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show. So okay, let me to clear some stuff up just so we can just for sake of like the timeline. So
Sure.
because I have a couple of comments. So first of all, first thing I want to say is I can't in a way I can't believe, but at the same time I can totally believe, which is probably the sad part that this is happening, right? Because you hear about this through the justice system in all sorts of different parts of it, right? Whether it has to do with race or it has to do with corruption. I come from a country where corruption is, just part of the culture, where you just go, you would hear this story and go, yeah, of course, what you think is going to happen, right?
Right.
It's amazing that it happens here, and that it happens for the reasons that you're mentioning, where you're supposed to rely on this justice system to not be political, right? Even though people think law and politics are the same thing, it really is not supposed to be. It's supposed to be where the justice system has to follow the point of justice, right? And you have a person here who was disgruntled with you and now is smearing your name, that then causes this 10-year roller coaster ride, if you will, if not just crazy spiral of situations. So let's walk through this timeline. So 2011 that happens. 2013 you start running into the issues. What happens? Let's walk through the last 10 years and what are some of the major milestones, good or bad, that have happened since that brings us to 2022 or almost 2023.
Well, I don't know. My finances went down pretty significantly. I had to file. I went through a divorce in late 2014, early 2015. I did. I've always been into art, and had an art gallery for some time. And so for a little bit, I set up an auction house and had fun selling art for a little bit. I don't know that there were really any highlights for a few years. I came back to practice law in 2014 and got connected with an attorney who's originally from Iran, who I thought was a good guy from my law school class. And it turns out he was doing unethical things with his clients. So I pulled away from him. And in doing so, he started attacking me. He stole money out of his trust account. And about 7 clients came and met with me when I separated from him and wanted to share with me what he did. I went and met with, this is when it really started heating up, Andres. This is in 2015. I met with the sheriff of Cleveland County, whose name was Joe Lester at the time. And I met in Stan Ward's office. Stan is a big plaintiff's attorney in Oklahoma. He actually represented the Republican Trump campaign in Oklahoma. An older attorney, probably about 80 years old, 75 or 80. And the sheriff promised to help all these folks. And this attorney, who I'd moved away from, had taken tens of thousands of dollars from his trust account for one woman, had lied about another group, and had said he had to pay me a lot of money and had to take money out of their settlement when he hadn't paid me. And the sheriff promised all of them he would do something, and then contacted the woman, ironically, contacted the woman at the bar who had previously prosecuted me for that questionable thing in 2013. If you want to back up to then, she had pressured me to admit the things that she had accused me of, and I didn't want to admit them because they weren't true. She emailed me what she wanted me to cite, etc. So he called her because she happened to be from his hometown, and she told him very negative things about me and told him not to help these these victims that she would. She did nothing. And when I found out that she had thwarted this criminal investigation that was going on, I contacted her superior and at the Bar Association in Oklahoma, whose name is Gina Hendricks. And I told Gina what this woman named Lorraine Faribault had done. And I thought Gina would do something about it. And instead, Gina and Lorraine started a flurry of attacks on me over the next 2.5 years. They would file 2 to 3 to 5 or 6 bar complaints a month, not from clients, not from judges. The bar prosecutor in Oklahoma filed bar complaints against me by going into all my cases. And she would, for example, I would file a motion in a case to help someone, or a motion for a judge to recuse. I had represented the opponent of one judge. And when I came up before him, I said, I think it's fair that you should recuse because I represented your opponent in this last race. And he recused. I had a bar complaint filed against me for filing that motion to recuse that I won. I filed other motions to recuse that I won. And they started spreading a false narrative about me. And this story in Oklahoma that I'm telling is about how you can create a false, if you have the power, you can create a false story and keep spreading it through a group of folks, which is what happened about me. They kept saying that I filed frivolous things to recuse judges, but I won them, and they were justified. And after a while, when I realized that this woman wasn't going to stop, who I'd caught thwarting a criminal investigation, who's supposed to be an ethical bar person, I filed a lawsuit against them. And they accused me of having filed a frivolous lawsuit for abusing their office. And I realized that my whole goal was to go through the system, to have maybe somebody in the system eventually see what really was going on, which is a group of folks abusing their office and their power, and together retaliating to protect one of their kind. And I mean, it really is. It's just that simple. And about the same time that I went through this kangaroo trial at the Bar Association, they hid witnesses, they lied about documents. I mean, it's almost a mafioso type of situation. How to be a bad prosecutor and how to violate ethical rules that apply to prosecutors. This would be a great study for law students, for MBA students, of what public servants are not supposed to do when they take away a property right in something like a law license. So they did all those things.
Gosh, this is crazy. This is some real mafia stuff. This is
that's what my dad,
movie corruptive type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when you they hid this, like, to take for instance the allegation. If you read the Supreme Court ruling taking away my bar license, you'll see that one of the allegations, like I mentioned to you before we came on, that I forged a notary stamp, it's ludicrous. And the bar actually has proof that it was this grandmother I was representing who was so desperate to have her grandchild out of state custody that she went to the baby daddy and forged a notary stamp. She brought all documents with her. I had her verify the documents she was bringing were true and accurate. You always do that with clients when you file those kinds of things. And so that way it wasn't on me to have to verify all these documents. And it was within 24 hours that I helped her for free. It was pro bono. I got the grandkid out of DHS. And then about a month and a half later, I got a bar complaint. And I'm sitting here going, what is this? And she had been, after I'd helped her, she went to the attorney whose notary she had forged. And that attorney said, "How did you get this document?" And she blamed it on me when she was, I guess, when was caught. And so I went back through my emails and I showed the bar,
this wasn't me. Yeah.
Wasn't me. And they spent 2.5 years not getting rid of that case and trying to figure out a way to make it look like and make it appear later. I had no idea they were going to do this, that I was the one who somehow forged documents. But the proof is conclusive. I have the text messages. The bar has the text messages from her. They have the phone records from her phone. They knew all of this, and they published a lie. So that's, if I didn't forge a notary stamp, there are like 11 reasons I lost my bar license. If I didn't forge a notary stamp, what else is false?
Right. If that's, I mean, I have it. It's like they were giving you failed to represent his clients competently or exercise due diligence in verifying the truth of pleadings he submitted. I mean, I read this 30 pager
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
grain of salt because of the conversation we initially had on the phone where you're like, hey, this is all this stuff that's happening to me. And maybe this is a good place to start talking about like what you are doing about it now. Cause I know that you submitted, you talked to a representative.
Mhm.
You were disbarred for a year or like you were suspended
And
for a year.
was suspended for a year, and then the license just came back in. And I was sort of a deer in the at that time, I was like deer in the headlights. I was accused of something I hadn't done based on a memo that was false issued by a judge, and I didn't even know that I actually didn't even know the person who had issued that with the who'd met with the judge was the head of the Council on Judicial Complaints
Yeah, of all
until
people.
later, of all people, until later. Met privately. It's called ex parte, and you're not supposed to meet privately with a judge if there's another party in the case and get favors from the judge. And that's what
Right.
this, excuse me, that's what this guy had done. And I had no idea that that had happened. I didn't know he was the head of the Council on Judicial Complaints. And when I figured that out afterwards, it just all kind of clicked. And then when I came back to practice and they started messing with me again in a very systematic, calculated fashion, I realized I wasn't going to win, and so I filed a lawsuit. I caught them meeting with judges about my lawsuit, the Bar
Yeah,
General Counsel. That's another.
that's the article I read, I think, when it talks about that there was a court date that you're supposed to be at and they never told you and it was like never confirmed. And then next thing you know, it's been ruled and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
oh my
uh,
gosh.
that's happening right now. That happened last this a couple of months. It's still happening, and so
Oh my
it's the
gosh.
group of people who I've exposed are still sitting as judges. There's still there's an outgoing administration in the Attorney General's office that includes attorneys who right now who have coached judges in every state. The attorney general of the state represents state agencies, and here in Oklahoma, like a lot of other places, the attorney general represents judges. And so here's the conundrum: when a citizen goes to the attorney general's office, like I did, and complains about very corrupt stuff that's going on, what you expect is the attorney general to investigate and do something when there's conclusive proof of wrongdoing. You would think they would ethically and morally do the right thing. In Oklahoma, they have under this former attorney general and the one who's outgoing, they have this policy of zealously representing corrupt public officials because they think it's their duty to do that. Now, in criminal courts, I mean, everybody's entitled to an attorney, but should taxpayer dollars in any state be used for the attorney general to represent corrupt judges? And I would hope the answer is no. And
Yeah.
the incoming attorney general of Oklahoma is, I think, a very ethical guy named Bednar Drummond. He's aware of my situation. He knows my current attorney, by the way, who's a bookman and a former governor of the state of Mississippi. My attorney is, I think, has been the attorney for John Grisham. Went to law school with Grisham, and so and he would be a
Cool.
good person for you to interview, I would imagine, at some point. His name is
Yeah.
Ronnie Musgrove, and Governor Musgrove has attempted for a year now to meet with Governor Stitt here in Oklahoma. And I've sent you, if anybody who
Yeah.
watches this wants to contact Governor Stitt and ask him to at least meet with Governor Musgrove, a fellow bookman, and just look at what's happened to me, I would encourage them to do that if somebody is interested in it.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this, you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. That's
So
okay. And actually, and this is good to, I had Nick kind of explain this a little bit too, but it's because I've been in the insurance industry before. For people who are listening, like, how do you make 115% commission?
like, the way I explain it to people is the insurance companies we represent. So we're a broker. All these companies we work with, they know they're not really going to be making any money off the sales that I make for the first several years. But they don't
Right.
care about that. They know these clients are going to be on the books for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. So no, they know they're going to make money over the long haul. And so part of the reason agents are able to make so much is there's all these companies out here and they're all competing for the broker's business, because these companies don't actually have their own in-house sales force. They have independent contractors. And so if their compensation or their commission levels that they offer aren't competitive, I'm not going to place any business with them.
Hello, off schedule moment. Wanted to tell you about Southwestern Real Estate. They're 99% drama free, only 99, not 99.9. So it's a bit spicy, kind of like this episode. Anyway, they will learn you to kick ass at real estate. So make sure you guys click the link below, get in touch with them. Okay, back to work. Bye. That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show. Yeah,
Uh,
there's a connection through, because Governor Stitt also sold books. That's another book, guys. So Governor Stitt sold books, Musgrove sold books, and then here we are
yeah,
with you as well.
Stitt, I've known him since after his first summer, actually. And
That's so real.
Governor Stitt and I actually took a trip to Hawaii. My dad was on that trip, and my dad really liked Kevin. I mean, actually donated to Kevin's campaign. And what's amazing is my dad's tried to meet with Kevin for 2.5, 3 years. Kevin's refused to call him back. I've tried to meet with Kevin. He's refused to meet with me. Governor Musgrove has sent letters, has tried to contact him and the outgoing attorney general. The incoming attorney general responds to my current attorney fairly quickly. The outgoing attorney general has refused to even meet with us and just talk. Just like, is there any chance that some of this stuff is true? And what's really, I think what really has been a good thing is meeting a state representative who actually, a guy named Rusty Branch, Andres. Rusty was a sales manager at Southwestern when I was there. And he and I grew up in Dallas, and Rusty and I played tennis in high school. So I've known him since I was 16, 17 years old. And Rusty was kind of like Kevin Stitt's student manager. And I met with Rusty a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I said, this is what's going on in my life. You wouldn't believe it. And he said, we've got to get Kevin to kind of help out. And he had me meet with a state representative. I didn't know the guy. And the state representative gave me the time of day. And if you think my story is crazy, the state representative his name is JJ Humphrey, and JJ has an even more amazing story. There is a sheriff's association, and a hit was put out on JJ's life in Oklahoma.
This is so cool. This is like you read this in the movie. And is this a good time to bring up the file that you shared with me?
Sure.
From JJ? Okay. Oh my gosh. First of all, I feel like we're talking about a movie, but this is real life. And so I want to say,
it's real life. It's real sick, and it's true, and it's not just me. I've gotten text messages from a couple of other families. I mean, who have dealt with the same exact people that I've dealt with. One of whom is I've just been giving my non-legal opinion to, and pointing her to look at certain documents and things that are out there. But it's not just me. It's anybody who travels through the state of Oklahoma right now is at risk of being, if they get tangled
subject to this. Yeah.
It's just the document.
So,
go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, no, like, even if so, because here's the thing, people form opinions. We were talking about this. Everyone chooses sides or whatever. And as I'm listening, I read the Supreme Court ruling for your disbarment. I read all, and again, I wanted to go through it without a biased opinion, because it's really easy, like you said, to just read that and think, oh my gosh, this guy is he's an asshole. Like, he had it coming, all this, right? But then you read some of the other documents. So, for example, one of the Judge Henderson, like there's like corruption everywhere else. And from what and from what I know of being from a country that there's a lot of corruption, I hear what you're saying. I go, that's also very believable, right? So regardless of whatever, and I'm speaking to the people who are listening who might not know what should I believe. Listen, if what you're saying is not true, then whatever, right? But if what you're saying is true, which is really the crazy part, there is a systemic corrupt system, not just in Oklahoma, but probably in every state in a similar way, where people who are at power in power can get away with doing all sorts of crazy shit and then kind of look the other way, who are supposed to be the people that we can trust, rely on to help us run and move this world forward. And the crazy part is, as I say this, people who listen to that part go, yeah, that makes sense. Of course there's corruption. The fact that that's so commonplace in our culture is really alarming. So let me share this document really quick. So we have corruption in state of Oklahoma. If you guys are listening in, you guys can totally go to our YouTube or on Spotify. There is also a video, but if you want to turn on that and get more into this, we're 31 minutes into the recording. And you guys can go check it out. I'm sharing the screen of this document. This is to Governor Stitt's office from J. Humphrey. It reads, corruption in state of Oklahoma liability for victims of Oklahoma County courthouse requiring immediate investigation. And it's a letter. So I'll have you walk us through this. I'm going to scroll as we go, but this is directed towards the governor. And so what exactly is this document? What's like the nuts and bolts of it?
Well, this is a state representative that I was directed to go meet with to see if what his thoughts were. And after meeting with him, I found out I wasn't alone. And as you can see, I'm one of the several stories of corruption at the Oklahoma County Courthouse that he includes. And he is interested in investigating that courthouse because of a lot of other matters. And if you Google or look up Representative Humphrey, Justin Humphrey, he was on the Dr. Phil show earlier this year, advocating for a man on death row who was, in his opinion, questionably convicted by the same Oklahoma County courthouse system. And he's very interested in exposing that corruption, and he's a very staunch Republican. He's actually pro death penalty. He's just anti-corruption. He doesn't care if it's not a political thing. He just doesn't like corruption. He's uncovered tens, I think, close to $80 or $90 million that one state agency was hiding in the past year. So he's a corruption buster kind of guy. And as you go through, I think he talks about some of the other victims.
He talks about a whistleblower, William Mueller here.
Then that's not me, obviously. That's a guy who was, I think, Secret Service for President George Bush Jr., who worked in this courthouse and who said what he saw there was pretty appalling, from the DNA evidence to the personal vendettas that the DA himself. And so this letter has attached to it, it's only a couple of pages, Andres, but then a lot of it is exhibits. So you can read it, I guess, and go back and forth with the exhibits. I am where he talks about me. Yeah, okay, it's on the second page.
Possibly the most disturbing and convincing evidence of judicial and prosecutorial misconduct has been in the cases of Alex Bednar. I'm providing a copy of service made by the DA's office on Mr. Bednar. Please notice the date of this document is stamped 3/27/19. And then he goes on and says, explaining and pointing out the holes in the system that you've been sharing with us here.
Yeah, I've been arrested 3 times falsely and without due process in civil cases.
Oh my God.
In 2019, once in front of my daughter, which really pisses me off. Let's see here. And I caught them backdating documents, making it look like I was supposed to be in court. And that's what he honed in on. That's what Representative Humphrey honed in on, because he's been involved in the court system as a criminal investigator for the Department of Corrections and other things. And so he understands how documents get filed. And when he saw that the conclusive proof that what the district attorney's office, somebody had done to manipulate a stamp and create a document that did not exist in the file, he honed in on it. And that's where he took interest in my case, Andres.
Oh, Yeah. First of all, I'm sorry that happened in front of your daughter.
Thanks.
That's egregious, regardless of the situation. That's egregious. And do you mind if I read this out loud, a little bit of this
No,
for
sure.
people who maybe are just listening? The DA's office, and I'm in the middle of the document. Again, if you guys want to go, I have it pull up on the screen, 35 minutes and 47 seconds in, but I'll just read some of this. The DA's office sent documents of Bednar service in arrest to a federal judge in what appears to be an effort to discredit him. Amazingly, upon examination of the court's file, the document of service was not present. How did this document obtain a file stamp but was never placed in the file? How did the DA obtain a copy of a filed stamped document not in the file to send to the federal judge? But even more alarming, how did a judge issue an order of arrest if there was no document to prove Bednar was notified of the court date being changed? Unbelievably, this same document was dreadfully altered, with one date being X'd out and a new date being refiled, stamped for a date of 5/2/19. Later on in the document, it says, how did Bednar's ex-wife receive court documents before it was filed and stamped? I have what appears to be appalling evidence of judicial prosecutorial misbehavior. However, it is too massive to include in this report. Just even that statement, it is too massive to include in this report. What this is saying is this is a sample size of a larger set of evidence that we have to prove that what Alex is saying is absolutely correct. And what was the state reply to this, or what happened after you guys? This is from November 2nd, 2021. So this is a year ago.
This is a year ago. So Stitt refused to meet with Representative Humphrey. Has done fundraisers, knows Stitt. I mean, just what I think the situation is, honestly, Andres, is that Kevin Stitt, the governor of Oklahoma, has surrounded himself and delegated authority to folks, and many of whom are very close to the people who are responsible for some of this, know about it, or could have fingers pointing to them, and has been listening to them. And so the gatekeepers for his administration have prevented us from meeting with him. And there was a Southwestern reunion last year, I think November 8th or so, in Fort Worth. Yeah, and I drove down there. I took this report with me, and drove down to Fort Worth and ran into Kevin and Alan Clements. And Kevin was talking. Governor Stitt Kevin Stitt was talking to Alan Clements, and I walked up, just with hundreds of alumni, and said hi to Alan and said, Kevin, this J.J. Humphrey has been trying to get a hold of you. This is a report on corruption I've been really messed with. And I talked to him about it for 10, 15 minutes. There was a CD in there of a tape recorded conversation with an OSBI agent making fun of Stitt, making fun of the governor. And the fact that his order to investigate Judge Henderson at the courthouse, the guy who's under, who's criminally charged, who I exposed, that they weren't going to take that serious. The recording shows the OSBI was not taking it seriously. So I think Representative Humphrey was appalled that the state OSBI was not actually doing what Kevin wanted them to do to help victims like me. And so I gave it to Kevin. I talked to him for 20, 30 minutes. He told me he was going to read it in his car on the way back with the protection guys. I talked to them. And then I never heard from him. Crickets.
This was a year ago. A year ago,
exactly. Yeah, a year and a couple of weeks. Yeah. Now, what was
Kevin,
interesting?
what are you doing?
Yeah,
you should have Kevin on the show. Just you two on the show. Just let's talk.
Kevin, I think Kevin's a good guy. I think when he ultimately somebody shows him everything that's happened, he'll do the right thing. And I had a lot of my friends. I was like telling everybody to vote for him because he's a friend, and I think he's just. This is such, anytime you don't see judicial corruption that much. You see a lot of folks in other state agencies who do things, but when you tie it in with judges, there's no accountability because there's no way to keep.
They're the judges.
They're the judges, right? Yeah. And so, oh man, yeah, he hasn't done anything since then. JJ has come out with another report about 2 weeks ago involving another family in North Texas. Similarly harmed, same group of people, Bar Association, Council on Judicial Complaints, same judge in the courthouse who's under criminal investigation, same DA's office who messed with me, who did stuff with them. And those folks and I have filed a federal lawsuit as of just the last 10 days.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this, you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. On a note from I'm trying to think, like, if I was looking into this, and for people who are listening who might be like, hey, this actually I want to learn more about this. What's the barrier to entry? Like, maybe I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, that sounds cool, but I don't know shit about insurance. Like, why would I want to go talk to people?
Yeah, the barriers to entry, I think, are really pretty low. Everybody would probably have a different opinion, but in terms to just be able to get out the door and go sell, you've got to get a license. I have my life and health license because you needed the health license at Family Heritage, or if you want to sell Medicare products or certain types of health products, you
Right.
have to have the health side. But what it takes to get either one or both of those licenses is roughly the same. You take a study course. You may need to study for 15 hours. You may need to study as many as 30 hours. But like with Cardinal, we've got a pretty cool course. From studying to getting your license can be as quick as like 7 to 10 days if you really 15 to 20 if you're moving at a medium pace. And beyond that, if it takes you longer than that, you're just not really all that motivated to start because it's
Yeah.
not a difficult process.
Yo, let's get off schedule one last time. Go watch a movie, or maybe you should figure out how to work at EnLight.Energy. Alex Black is crushing it down there, and a former DSM, Julio Hernandez, are both running this company. And man, they are cranking 10 people on their team and growing. It's enough that Alex only has to sell like one thing every other week and make over 6 figures. So if you want to learn more about that and maybe help change the planet, click on the link below. That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show.
So
Oh, tell me about this. No, we're approaching. So here's what's gonna have to happen is we're probably gonna have to have you back again to share some more stuff. Maybe have Governor Musgrove with you so we can kind of dive into this a little deeper. But tell me about what's
he might
happened
not
last
want me
10
to
days.
talk. He might speak for me.
Sure. Like you
Yeah.
just listen.
Right.
Okay, fair, but that's fair enough. But so tell me a little bit about what that process has been like in the last 10 days and you know what you're hoping happens from as a result of this lawsuit that you just filed with that family.
Well, you know, I'm going to send you a couple more things real quick. I'm sending you another letter that Representative Humphrey wrote to the governor, and then a letter I wrote to Kevin that was just one page about just a breakdown of what's happened to me. That you're happy to publish those as well if you want to.
Yeah, and we'll put those in the show notes for people to read if that's all right.
Yeah, and I also have. I'll tell you what. I have one more thing I could send you, but you know, I think the goal of the lawsuit is just justice, and we just want someone to look into these things. When this family from North Texas has tape recordings of the courthouse sheriffs corroborating these things that we're talking about. They helped actually when they met me in 2019. They're the ones with me who helped open up a Department of Justice investigation, and they wrote one of the family members started a nonprofit in Texas called Justice 2, and it just sort of just because of their situation, and through that letterhead they wrote a letter describing what they had gone through. And they attached tape recordings to it. They sent it to the FBI, to the Department of Justice, to the Attorney General of Oklahoma, to the OSBI, the State Bureau of Investigation in Oklahoma, to Governor Stitt, to the Attorney General, and the Department of Justice. And that's what opened up a Department of Justice investigation. So we've actually met with FBI agents, and we don't know what they've done, and not sure, where they are.
How far they've gotten. Yeah,
no idea. But I know that they weren't that. I don't know that how serious they were about it, because we had more recordings over. I mean, every couple of months, another judge would do something, and there would be more evidence of collusion. And so we've turned over supplemental documents, or tried to, and they didn't want to take them. So I don't know if they're investigating anymore at this point. But we're asking for just an investigator, just anybody to look, just like Representative Humphrey, just look at what's happened and see if there's been what we clearly know is abuse of due process, abuse of office, more likely than not, some criminal stuff by public officials. At the very least,
So
some very unethical conduct, to take away my property right and my license, to take away my house. That's a whole other story.
Yeah, I read about that too. That was crazy. That was crazy too. There, man.
Yeah. So let me tell you something. If it hadn't been, I'm working for a bookman. I have a local counsel in Texas who's a 7-year bookman. I have my lead counsel is a bookman governor. And, if the third summer I sold books, I think I got at that time, for a short amount of time, I got the biggest paycheck ever given to a college student. Up until that point in time, it's been, battered since then. And it was for about $43,000 or $44,000. It was more than my dad made, in a whole year as a college professor. And I think 2 weeks later, when Kelly Breslin checked out, she had a higher paycheck than I. So I had, for like this amount of time, I had some sort of clout as, but when you're right and you believe in something, you don't give up. And the thing about me is, through the last 6-7 years, these folks, at some point, someone in Oklahoma is going to figure out that I'm not going to give up, and I'm not going to be accused of things my whole entire life that I know are false. And so when I look in my daughter's eyes, I want to be able to tell her this is what really happened. And so, it's if it hadn't been for the book field and the kinds of things I learned, and the resilience, I probably wouldn't be confident. And I've had enough people now look at my situation, including 2 attorneys representing me, a state representative, and a lot of folks. And hopefully the Governor Stitt, takes 5 minutes and just meets with us, and then takes another 5 minutes. And that's kind of what we're hoping somebody just investigates on this.
My gosh, man. Well, God, first of all, wow. Like, my gosh, it's just bananas. Second, if people listening have connections that could help with getting this out to Governor Stitt, let us know. Message us. We could try to find ways to get a hold of him and reach him in other ways to expose this. This is bananas. I think what we need to do, if it's okay with you, at some point we'll have you back in and kind of periodically have you check in with us to see how things are going. I'll keep in touch with you, and at some point, whenever you're ready, we can have you come out for part 2 of this recording, and just hopefully it'll be with good news, saying, hey, we got through to Governor Stitt. We were able to start moving towards justice, because this is bananas. This is some movie stuff right here. I don't even know. Man, this is so crazy. So again, first of all, I commend you for your persistence. I'm assuming your favorite scroll has to be "I will persist until I succeed," given
I think
the last 10 years of your life.
Yeah, from Og Mandino. Yeah, absolutely. I've been reading this book right here called
Never Panic Early.
Yeah, it's about the Jim Lovell, Apollo 13, and the message that he has is that in certain life situations, it's easy to panic, and if you don't panic and think through it, it can save your life. And so, I have a lot of funny stories I'm happy to share with you the next time.
Sure. We never even got to the ponytails. That's okay though. That's okay. This is a ponytail on its own. This is a whole crazy experience to be having. To say that you sold books door to door for 80 hours a week for 9 summers, and that was nowhere near the craziest thing that was going to happen to you in your life, is an understatement. But honestly, I am honored that you came in and shared with us your story, and that you are willing to be so public about it, because I feel like there's, once you start getting into some of these things and they start getting more and more, like, as as you start being more right and people start learning that what you're saying is true, there could be some repercussions based on the fact that people don't like getting caught doing bad things. And so it's brave in a lot of sense what you're doing as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure you know this, but I mean, I think it might have been Jefferson who said that the media is the fourth branch of government. And when you have three branches of government with no accountability, there's a lot of opportunity for corruption. And so, anytime you can expose something and get some people talking and create some accountability through things like this or through discussion, whether it's radio, TV, newspaper, face-to-face, whatever, the goal is just to get to the truth. And people shouldn't be persecuted for things that aren't true. That there shouldn't be false things written about folks. And public servants aren't supposed to do that. So,
especially public servants. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Alex, thank you so much for being on the show. We're just going to call this part one, just because I know that we'll probably have to have you on again, just to chat again. And
let me tell you, you said you're going to have Dave Rosen on this show.
Right? Yeah, he's
I
coming
met
back.
Dave Rosen. He I think I broke whatever record he had. Dave Rosen was accused and almost could be in prison. He was accused. You know about that?
Yeah, with the Clintons, right?
With the Clinton thing.
Yeah,
and Dave Rosen went through a trial and was acquitted. And so, I think his bookfield experience, you can ask him, but I would imagine his bookfield experience and going through those false accusations probably helped him just the same way that my experience has helped me with this, incredible story that's happened to me. And I will tell you, as the universe would have it, my student manager selling books ended up being in law school with me when I transferred to the OU Law School. And he's actually, he's a judge, and he is aware of some of the stuff that's happened to me. And if there is indeed a proper investigation, he's willing to talk. So, there's a lot of random book people who are coming out, connections who are helping me in my life. Seriously, at this point.
The way it works. That's the way it works.
I'm working for Bookman. I'm working for my old director right now, and my attorneys are both book people. And the person who could help me, the governor of Oklahoma, is a bookman. I have nothing against. I think he's been given a lot of really, really bad advice by people in front of him who eventually he'll realize have been giving him some really bad advice. So,
yeah. Wow. I can consider the PR, the dealing with bad PR definitely has prepped you somewhat for from the book field has prepped you for this, so that at least there's that. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, we'll pause it here. Again, there's gonna be a part 2, maybe a part 3 of this where we talk more about book field stuff and more about what's going on and how your case is going. But thank you so much for being on here. I am honored that you came on the show and shared this truth. Hopefully this can be the beginning of something that really helps going forward. I hope so.
And thank you, Andres. And I enjoyed learning about your story, and I'm really glad you're doing this, and I wish you the very best. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. And guys, thank you for listening. Again, if you want to check out the video with the documents that were shared, there's also going to be some of the documents on the show notes. Go check them out there. Catch us on the next episode. We'll catch you guys, I think next Thursday or next Sunday is the next episode that comes out. So we'll see you on that one. Peace out, everyone. Bye.